Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars on what has to be the most hot, miserable, soul-killing, shitty, horrible summer morning in the history of the world. I mean, it is it's just horseshit out here. I mean, it's like living in a prehistoric swamp. The humidity, the dripping, the fogged up windows and glasses. It's like being in a bowl of French onion soup or something. I mean, it is the worst. I am living in the worst place on earth right now, and I'm in Peter's driveway for the first time in quite a while. I'm probably going to be a little bit under the weather and probably a little strange from lack of sleep. I did some coronavirus moonshine, although, purists are going to say it can't be moonshine if you paid taxes on it, and I probably agree with that. But whatever the hell they call it, that's what I'm on. And then earlier today, a helicopter spraying for mosquitoes flew directly overhead. And I mean, like, it bruised the top of that palm tree, spraying out whatever the hell it's spraying out. I doubt whatever it's spraying is as good as the stuff it sprayed when I was a kid, when we had World War II bombers doing it here. But it was still pretty good. And I still, we'll see anyway. We'll see what comes of it. But I inhaled a bunch of that shit. Anyway, look, here I am. This is an ongoing summer update. It's kind of a quasi-review of this truck mixed in with why the hell I haven't been here for a month and a half or however long it's been. And we're just going to knock it all out. So there was no videos because I was on an extended trip to the mountains in North Carolina. I made a promise to myself, well, for the last 20 years actually, that I would go away this summer, that I would at least miss 1 month of summer. And I chose July for whatever reason, and I did. I went up there for a full month. I stayed in the mountains. It was fantastic. And now I'm back. I drove up there with Sean, the wheel guy. He's also a Nazi fisherman, by the way. He does YouTube videos now, occasionally with me in them, which is not something that I really choose, but it's what happens. Anyway, so he's very rough when he's on the fishing boat, very demanding, very commanding. But let me tell you something, man. When you drive up with him somewhere, it's a little bit different. My friend Al, who's very cheap, by the way, and his wife, who makes him have a joint Facebook account, they came up later. Chris, the worst human on earth, he never visited at all. He had some other crap to do, but driving up with Sean, I mean, look, despite his advanced age, it was like driving to North Carolina with a snowflake. I mean, he was on his phone constantly, the whole time, doing like tickety-tocks and Instagrams and whatever it is like my nephew would do. That was what Sean was doing, which was kind of fine, actually, because it turns out he's a terrible navigator. I can't tell you how many wrong turns he forced me to take, very aggressively. We probably would have ended up in Cleveland if it was just up to him, despite having the help of Google Maps and, whatever other navigation devices there were. And he also peed a lot. I mean, it's like, oh my God, could we stop here? I gotta take a piss. I get that not everybody has a manly bladder that they're born with, but this was just full-on lady stuff, so we had to stop a whole bunch. The drive was about 12 hours, and frankly it was pretty easy and smooth, with a couple of glaring exceptions. And I'm looking at you, South Carolina, get your shit together, for Christ's sake. Absolutely ridiculous. But the weather was phenomenal. I mean, it was, oh my God, we stayed outside Boone for the first couple weeks. Then I moved on over to the other side of the state, Bryson City near Tennessee, up in the mountains. And the weather, it might, they were going through a heat wave. People kept apologizing to me for the heat, which was hysterical because I didn't sweat for a month. And I think the worst day, it might have hit 80, in the second stay, and it was just fantastic. I'd wake up, sit on this patio or whatever the hell, the deck, whatever you call it up there, drinking coffee and looking out over the mountains. It was a lovely little nip in the air. And I realized just how much I can never spend another summer here in Naples. So I've got to figure all that out. I saw a fox and a bear. I posted about the bear on X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it. People made fun of me a little bit. They said it wasn't very big. I had forgotten the rhyme, you know, if it's brown, hunt it down, or if it's black, run like, whatever the hell it is. The one I remembered was, if it's a bear, get the hell out of there. And that's what I did. It was on the side of the road. And, you know, being from Florida and not a particularly rural-y area of Florida, I'm not inundated with bears, so it was quite shocking to me. And I felt, you know, I didn't feel very safe. The fox, you know, who knows? I hear those things can leap up and attach to your face, but this one was pretty far away and it seemed all right. Later on, I went whitewater rafting, which was not my choice. And by the way, I'm sorry for... you know, I'm like that guy in the, you know, showing all the slides of his vacation, but I've been gone for a while and I thought I'd explain it. So, but anyway, my ex-neighbor, who's very cheap, he actually makes Al seem lavish and very crabby in a way that, you know, Sean could tip his hat to. He came up for the last few days of the trip, and he really wanted to go whitewater rafting at some place he had been, you know, 25 years ago, which turned out to be like 2 hours from the cabin. And to get there, we had to pass like 112 different whitewater rafting companies, including one like 11 minutes from, you know, the cabin. So we drove past all of those, went deep into the sticks. I mean, deep into the sticks. Turned out to be great fun, but it was also a little freakish. I mean, I hear that July and August is mating season there, and I was told that Deliverance is thought of as a romantic comedy, so that's kind of where we were at. I think they call it the Ocoee River or something, and I swear I heard banjo music, but either way, it was great fun, very relaxing, very enjoyable, and I was miserable when I had to pack up the truck and head home, and that I did right at the end of July. You know, I made it all the way. I didn't stop much because Sean wasn't with me. I got out of the truck, the glasses fogged up, the sweat came back, and I knew that I had returned to this godforsaken place. I was back for a week, not even, and then we went off to the Keys with my friend Steve. He organized the trip. He has for years. We go lobstering every year. It's great fun. He's also kind of a Nazi fisherman, but not nearly as bad as Sean. But he has 3 kids, and he took one with him, 3 kind of young men. And, you know, look, interestingly, he didn't take the breakfast sandwich making kid. I had to hear, oh, one of my children, he loves making breakfast sandwiches. You know, what? Well, why the hell didn't you bring that kid, you know? And that kid, by the way, it turns out he's also really good at fishing. He's great at spotting birds when you're out looking for dolphin, and, you know, just a really on-the-ball kid. And instead he brings the one who sleeps late, eats like a horse, and has no regard for food ownership, and moves in super slow motion. And that's the one he brought in. I'm kid. Whatever that kid's name was, he's a very fine young man. Very fine. Ben, it's a joke. It's a joke. Anyway, look, let's just get into the truck, because again, nobody wants to hear me ramble on moonshine for the next 20 minutes about, you know, my slide presentation of my vacation. So here it is. Look, it's a 2019 Chevrolet Silverado 2500HD Midnight Edition. And we sold our house recently. It's a long story. I haven't bought a new one. And I thought, you know, what the hell? We're going to splurge. I'm going to splurge. I've been thinking about getting an Airstream so I can escape from the world a lot. And, you know, even though the old truck, which I love, would tow it with no problems, I thought, you know, whatever. I like wasting money on stuff. Why don't I buy this truck before I spend it all on, like, you know, firearms and strip clubs? You know, I'll have something to show for it. So I did. And I bought this off Penelope, you know, my great friend and maker of, you know, vaginal hygiene products. And this is like 2 tax evasion. You know, the government buys you trucks when you're in business. It's a nice setup. This was like 2 tax evasion trucks ago, and it was just sitting at the back of the shop, and it just looked absolutely neglected. It looked like it needed rescue, so that's what I did. I thought, the hell with it. I'm going to rescue this thing. So, you know, she gave me a very good price on it, about, you know, $5-6 grand over retail. and I jumped it because, of course, it had dead batteries. I brought it up. I started emptying some of the stuff out of it. And, I had to dismiss like 6 or 7 different warning messages just firing it up. The thing was so loaded up with Amazon accessories. You had to dig through them to get to what was underneath. So I had to start addressing that. It also had tires that howled like a banshee. By the way, but there was a push bar on the front with a big LED light, which was directly in front of the parking sensor. So when you fired the thing up, the parking sensor warning went off, which was nice. Half the LED bulbs were burned out. I got turn signal warnings from every corner of it. There were these weird switches inside, which appeared to run nothing, although it was a giant row of switches. It had these weird Chinesium headlights for some reason. It had an engine tuner on it, a Banks tuner, which they say is, good, but we'll get into why it wasn't. And some sort of pedal commander, which, made it so you didn't have to press the pedal harder to leave a light or something. Also helper shocks, a disconnected train horn, and a variety of other things that I'm slowly but surely sorting out. So we're getting there, but here's the thing. So, we take this truck. It's nice for me. I just, look, it's a handsome truck. Drive a halfway up, I get this big warning, a check engine light. It turns out the DEF pump, the diesel fluid, exhaust fluid, the stuff that Al Gore says you have to put in your truck to make it safe from ruining the earth. The pump went out, and what that does is screws everything up, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with the running condition of the truck. Zero, nothing. Eventually it'll just shut the truck down and you got to walk somewhere. So I kind of had to handle this while I was up in NC. Go to the Chevy dealer up there near Boone. $900 my cost for this little Chinese DEF pump that I then had to install in the driveway of the cabin on gravel. And I poured about 19 gallons of DEF, well, it was 2.5 gallons, but it felt like a lot of DEF fluid on my head, which I still smell like. I also had to do the fuel filter, got that all going, and then I started getting this intermittent check engine light. And the beauty of this light is it would come and it would say I had reduced engine power. And what Chevy means by reduced engine power is pretend you're driving like a 2008 Hyundai Sonata with a handshaker and 2 spark plug wires pulled, and you try to leave in 5th gear. You couldn't have made it over a speed bump. And, the cabin driveway is at like a 20% grade, so there's just no way. I'd be going down the road, this light would come on, the whole truck would just kind of die, and I'd have to coast in somewhere. It turned out I could disconnect the battery and reconnect it, and that would turn it off, but it was still terrifying, and it would happen in traffic. So I fought that for like 2 weeks with so much hate in my heart, you couldn't believe it. I mean, the amount of hate that I felt was beyond description. Finally, after much Googling, and I found out that it was the Banks tuner. Apparently the wiring harness goes bad. It connects in line between the fuel rail and the engine computer, and what it was doing was sending a message to the engine computer that it had no fuel pressure, and it would just shut the whole thing down. And it took me a long time to figure out that, and it was incredibly irritating. But since then, since removing that thing, and I'm going to remove it altogether, it hasn't come back. Also, the pedal commander malfunctioned and wouldn't work other than in like top position, so all you had to do is breathe on the gas pedal and it would spark up the rear tires. So I had to disconnect that thing as well, and there's a bunch of wires underneath the dash that fall down on my feet now, and but I'll get it anyway. But anyway, look, so here it is. But I'm giving Penelope a lot of flack for this because, of course, she sold me a giant lemon that's been nothing but a monetary expense and made me feel tremendously hateful, and still does. But despite this, I have to say that I actually like the truck. I mean, for one, look, it's a big, imposing truck. It's, I can't really get in and out of it because I'm a little guy. I look ridiculous, but, it's got a nice stance. Now, I will say, every time I had to fix it, all I could think about was my '06 2500 HD at home, which is flawless. It's never been anything but perfectly flawless. I've never had to fix anything. I had to put an alternator on it once, which was a mistake, by the way, because it turned out to be just a bad pulley tensioner. But either way, once I did that on the road, it was easy. This thing I had to fix like 5 times, and it kept giving me more flack. Anyway, I'm getting back into that. But it's a handsome truck, and I like it for that. And, you know, look, it's got a 6.6 liter Duramax, which is a great engine. You're talking about 445 horsepower, 910 foot-pounds of torque. So you could tow, I could tow that RV out of here without breaking a sweat, which is kind of nice. Even if it is all computer-controlled with Al Gore oversight and whatnot, it is a pretty proper engine. It's also got a 6-speed Allison in it, like my '06, you know, 2500, which it's been flawless in that. And I've had a few banging downshifts in this, which are giving me cause for concern, but otherwise it seems to be a pretty robust transmission. I'm happy enough. But like, you can tow up to like 18,000 pounds with these things. You know, that would be great for the Airstream. It would be a handsome front end for the Airstream. It would look nice on YouTube, and that's the thought. So despite, you know, Penelope secretly selling me this thing that she knew was terrible and overcharging me for it and laughing all the way, despite all of that, I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to not sell it off and recoup my losses, and I'm going to see if I can't make it a little more bulletproof than it is now by just bringing it all back to factory, by removing all the stuff with it. So anyway, look, I'm going to take a 5-minute break here, get my breath, and then we'll get a little bit more in depth, and then we'll wrap it up and give you the future ideas. We'll move on from there. So bear with me 1 minute. All right, so let's keep going. Let's have a look under the hood. I got a bunch of crap to put back in the truck before we go, so I might screw up the order a little. You can see wires all hanging down here. That's all from the stuff I disconnected but haven't fully removed yet. Have a look under the hood. Yeah, and this thing, okay, so this bug shield, and here's what I found about bug shields in my life. If you want to destroy your hood in a way that guarantees you'll be repainting it at some point, then put on a bug shield. And, you know, sure enough, that's what's happening with this. It kept flapping up on the interstate, so I eventually just glued it down with super weather strip adhesive. I can't even imagine what the paint looks like underneath this thing. So I'm gonna be stuck with it for a while. But it's an Amazon accessory I had to keep because, you know, to remove it would have been exposing damage. But, you know, the original headlights are now back in it, which make more sense. The ones that were in there, I thought it made it look like a 10-year-old Ford. You know, the grille sort of continues into these headlights. And yeah, they're a little, you know, maybe it's not the most handsome design, but it's the design and you're stuck with it. So you might as well use it. Anyway, under the hood, let's see what we got. I don't know if I can get in here one-handed. Why is this hard? Why is everything? Oh, God. All right, so there it is, 6.6 liters of Duramax. You know, uses DEF, still too new for my taste, too many computer controls. Up there on top is where I had to disconnect that Banks tuner. It's got some sort of a Boy Racer air intake. That's another thing I got to change back, but haven't yet. Chevy brilliantly put the DEF tank fill way down here under the firewall where you can barely reach it. And then when you do reach it, the funnel hits the back of the hood and you're trying to pour a 2.5-gallon container of DEF into it. So really, really clever placement there, Chevy. Thank you very much. That goes into the tank here. You can see it down there beside, which actually, you know, was thankfully not that bad for access. But I had to Amazon a fuel pump removing tool, hope it made it to this weird little spot by the cabin, which it did, remove that rock cover, and then drop the pump, spilling DEF on my head in the driveway. The truck was tall enough that I didn't have to lift it, which was good. But, you know, honestly, I'd have been much happier not installing a $1,000 DEF pump on my trip. The shocks, you can see they're kind of rusty. That's one of my complaints about this thing, is it rides like a Man, you know, I get the trucks don't ride the same, but this thing will actually destroy your vertebrae. It's smooth as hell on nice pavement. You hit the smallest bump and it launches you into the roof. So I've ordered new shocks. I'm going to put those in. These are new tires because the old ones had tread, but they must have been like hockey pucks, and they were screaming loud. And, you know, again, just dollar after dollar, but we'll get it figured out. So anyway, there it is. Very nice. 900 foot-pounds of torque. All very lovely. Have a look in the bed. It's another thing I was fighting. Yesterday, actually the day before, the evening before, this roller cover top thing disintegrated. And I mean disintegrated. You wouldn't recognize it. And then I had to look them up, and it was $1,200 for the cheapest one, which, by the way, this one is. And I couldn't stomach that, so I spent the day with my snowflake nephew rebuilding it, which was an absolute nightmare. I don't know how long it's going to work for, but for the moment it's back on. I do have to say, I do like the weight of the tailgate. It's very, very light. Actually, there's the firearm thing we were talking about and why I bought the truck. I have been buying firearms. I went over my collection and realized that I was a little bit soft on anti-tank. So I did manage to take care of that. I've got that hole in the collection covered. It's a 50 cal. It turns out it uses, just for the sake of comparison, it's kind of interesting. So there's the 357 from the gun in the center console, and here's the 50 cal round, and you know, good. It's good to have stuff in case stuff goes bad, and I think that's going to be pretty useful. Although, you know, if I buy more of this stuff, I'm going to end up without a house and living in that Airstream, which hopefully I buy before I spend it all on strip clubs. I keep this box with me now because it's going to have all the stuff in it I need to fix the truck while I'm driving it. These are also 2 Amazon. Look at the carpeting he put in, by the way. The carpeting. And this thing leaks, so the carpeting is wet. So I drive around with wet carpeting, which I'm sure is going to rust everything around it. But anyway, we'll see. He also had some kind of ladder racks on there, which these things I left because I thought they'd be nice tie-downs. But it turns out that they lift the bed cover enough. You see there, it doesn't seal, so the water just pours in. So I have to undo this bed cover again, get these things off, probably replace these now bent and screwed up bed caps, and the fun just continues. But anyway, I give Penelope credit for this. I like these. So you pull this little guy here, this thing swings out. It locks if you want, and you can open it up, and there's just all kinds of room in there for crap. I used to have a toolbox under the rear seat of the old truck. In fact, I don't used to, it's still there. And I loved it. These almost take the place of it. They don't have the same amount of room, but yeah, whatever. They work fine. All right, put this back in. Oh, God. Yes, I gotta pull that back. All right, I tell you what, well, let me show you the back seat because I'm gonna put all my crap back there in a minute. And I have a GoPro set up with footage I probably won't use. I always overpack, which I did this time too, and I brought like 9 shirts with me that I didn't wear. I ended up wearing t-shirts all the time, so I just carted that around up and back. This is the rear seat. He put a box, Penelope put a box back here that when you put it down, it's nice, it hits the seat and the seat doesn't go. This is, you know, she's so persnickety. I don't understand why I'm having to do stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. You know, it would drive her crazy, I would think, to have a seat that doesn't close all the way, like it's driving me crazy. And yet I'm contending with it. So I really don't know what the hell happened with her in this truck. I do like all the pockets that it has. I emptied everything out, but I had so much crap stuffed in here. You know, blankets, towels, syringes, all the stuff you need when you're on the road. And that was nice. I like the pockets at the back and some other stuff. I have this Swedish soap I bought, which is fantastic. I think it's Swedish. It's scratchy because it's got salt in it, and I gave it to a bunch of people, even though that's kind of effeminate. I handed out soaps. My friend Andrew has been sending me pictures of the soap from really weird, exotic destination, you know, places like Dubai and Dallas, and, you know, I don't know what the hell he's up to, but that's pretty well traveled. So anyway, so now let me get my crap in the back, then we'll hop up front. I'll show you a few things up there, show you what broke up there, and then we'll go for a drive. So bear with me one moment. Let's hop in this thing. You know, back here, I'll say this, I do like these little step holes in the side of the bumper, you know, at my height. Very helpful to get in and out of there. I also like the two trailer plugs. You know, it's got the big round one and the short flat one, and that's helpful. You know, the receiver hitch. The exhaust looks absolutely ridiculous to me, but it's factory, he promised me. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then underneath, there's the abandoned train horn, which I haven't dicked around with yet, but that's going to be removed. You know, here's another thing. I don't like four-door trucks. They don't really give you an option anymore for the most part. Even the extended cab now uses these little retarded-looking back doors, which looks dumb. To me, the 06 I have with the reverse opening back doors and the whole open side is perfect. You know, this one, man, if you want a car, buy a car if you need four doors. I just don't feel like a truck should have four doors and you know, the proper truck would have a long bed. I just can't take the way they look. So this is the 6'6" bed instead of the 8-footer. That's fine. But it does make the truck big and unwieldy to park. But otherwise, I would be much happier if this were an extended cab instead of a four-door. I also wonder why they needed to put the step bars on the side so high. I have to jump up for them. Anyway. So look, inside, it's not, you know, like Sean, the wheel guy, has this high country thing that's a true Bentley truck. This is an LTZ package, so it's got some of that stuff, and it's enough of a Bentley truck for me. You know, dual power leather seats, leather wrapped steering wheel, touch screen stuff, you know, power windows, even a sunroof, which I'll never use ever. And, you know, it's fancy enough. But again, a truck should have rubber floors in my world. You know, my 06 has manual seats, a rubber floor, and power windows. And again, to me, that's just absolutely perfect. But let's hop in it. There you see the door panel. I've actually had an actual memory seat in a truck, which seems ludicrous. Here's your power windows and mirrors. It's got a bunch more stuff to put stuff. There's a Bose speaker, which sounded like crap, by the way. I had to replace those speakers, which one they sounded better. But you know, all very snazzy. I'm going to fire this thing up and get the AC going because it is ridiculous and I am melting. Oh, God. All right. Of course, it just bings at you and beeps at you and every other damn seatbelt on. At least I'm finally getting some cool air. All right, so here you can see it's got a pretty good display of gauges. You've got your tach over on the left, you got your miles per hour on the right, you got a little infotainment thing in the middle that can tell you different stuff. You go into info, you get trip. It actually got pretty good fuel mileage on that one. Like you can see, I put over 4,000 miles on that trip and probably averaged close. There's my diesel that was so hateful. That just showed 2 dashes and came with a check engine light and a time bomb to shut off the engine. You get your off-road stuff, trailer brake stuff, all the gauges they don't give you, timers for when you're driving around Sebring and so on and so forth. So all very nice. Up top you got a voltmeter, a temp gauge, your fuel gauge. This thing finally had some range. I could make it to NC with one stop if it wasn't for Sean having to piss every 10 minutes. And then oil pressure, which reads a little low to me, I think, but I suppose it's fine. Over here you got your transfer case controls. I did have to go into 4-low a couple times to make it up the cabin driveway. Automatic headlights, trailer brake shit. You got, you know, flippity flip buttons here and on the back for different stuff. Over here, now this was another story, so it's not doing it now, of course, and I didn't try to fix it because I wanted to illustrate it. The screen started flickering. I think I can find a video that I took while I was driving, and it would flicker, and it would flicker, and it would be annoying as hell, and it's a factory screen. Then I found you could bang on the dash, like right here, and occasionally that would fix it. Mostly it would not. So I'm driving down the road, banging the shit out of the dashboard till my hands hurt. That happened the whole ride home. I finally just had to shut the thing off. And then the next day it's fine. And there's a variety of things that can cause it, apparently. I was at a truck stop. I actually pulled the dash out, cleaned the connections behind it. Did not work. Anyway, you get into this, you get your Chevy crap, you get your navigation, you got your Apple CarPlay, you can text people, apparently. You've got OnStar, some crabby woman overseeing your life. You can download more apps. I haven't bothered. I get into the Fox Sports, Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times, the things I want to do while driving. I did add a radar detector. There was one there, but Penelope demanded it back, so I replace it with the same thing. I'm not saying Penelope's like Al, but she's like Al. There's some kind of self-dimming mirror, the forward-facing camera. Everything is so complex now. There's actually a phone app for the stupid radar detector where I have to go in so that it will do the thing, like shut off the bands not in use in Florida, so it doesn't go off every time I pass a sliding glass door. There's an OnStar thing. This was glowing at me red a few times, and I still don't know why. These are the things for the helper shocks. Looks nice. Airlift doesn't work. Haven't quite figured it out. It doesn't have 27 pounds in it. I have no idea why it's showing that, and it's really frustrating. You got a couple of cocaine mirrors here, which is fine. You got a place to store your sunglasses, more switches. You got a big sunroof, which is very untruck-like to me. I've also got a malfunctioning camera now, which is fantastic. Just great. Down here, you've got a row of factory switches. It's got power pedals. You can turn off your traction control. It's got a bed light, which turns on these LED mirrors, LED lights on the side of the mirrors that would like burn the skin off your face. All they do is blind you, and I have no idea what's going on there. Parking sensors, which again was screwed up when I got it. Hill descent and exhaust brake. That was very useful on the mountain roads. You also get some USB ports if you got snowflakes with you, some cigarette lighter plugs, and then a 110 if you want to charge your laptop. I added this RAM mount for my phone because there was nothing there. There was this whole big row of switches in front of this, which was loose and would bounce around and covered half this hole, so things would fall down into that pit and be irretrievable without scraping your hand away. I had to move this subwoofer control up here because it was in the center console. The bass could be overwhelming on one song and not there on another, so to use it I had to move it back out here where I could get to it. You got heated and cooled seats, which is fantastic. I love the cool seats. Give them credit for that one. Getting into the center console, you know, you can put a bunch of crap in there, which I have. Great little flashlight, which he had in a, which Penelope had in her storage thing there. She also wanted that back, so I had to buy another one. She did not. She didn't leave me the charger, which was nice. I've been dicking around with what firearm to keep in the center console. I thought about this one. This is some weird, they call it a COP, a COP. I don't know what that stands for, but it will hold 4 357 rounds in this. Oh God, glad it's not loaded. Anyway, it'll hold 4 357 rounds in there and shoot them sequentially. One friend asked me if it fired all at once, and yeah, okay, yeah, of course it does. That would end up with nubs. Or I'm just going to go with the Colt Python, which has a nice, you know, it's got a nice look to it on the road. It's, if you need to pull that out, you know, in a big city somewhere, even though it doesn't fire that many rounds, it's just got a look that I think would deter crime. So I'm you know, dealing with which one of those to keep. Got a couple cigars. Here you see this Deals Gap thing. That's that tail of the Dragon Road that all the motorcyclists crash on in Tennessee into North Carolina. I actually hit it accidentally, and I got a sticker that said that, by the way. I got 2 stickers. One said I did it by accident, one said I did it in the truck. And that is true. I did do it by, I had to go, I won't get into it. I went to Knoxville from Boone, and then from, and then from Knoxville to Bryson City, and it just took me through that tail of the Dragon Road just using Google Maps. So I ended up going back there, bought a souvenir t-shirt for my nephew and this Cooley cup, which I'm going to use in the truck, and I posted that on on my race video page because it was so incredible. I took GoPros with me to do the road. It felt very fast, and when I watched the video, it was intensely boring, like I was crawling. So I put that on the race video channel. Anyway, look, there it is. I don't, you got two, oh God, it's so far to get over there. I got two glove boxes over here. That's the removed thing that was setting off the check engine. Some fuses there because I had to fool around with that. This is a cable that might fix the flickering. Penelope has two antennas up in the corner there. I have no idea what they do, but they're there. Let's just go for a drive. Get something back on here. All right. No, low. All right. Here we go. So I will say that the truck steers and drives very nice on smooth pavement. It's a Cadillac. The visibility is shit. Trying to look over this hump in the hood, which is already tall. It's got one hump and then a second hump. Very difficult for me to see my corners. When I was driving down these big sloped driveways to the cabin in NC, I couldn't see 5 feet in front of me, and I didn't know if I was taking the turn right, and that was annoying. But anyway, it all ended okay. Let's get out here. But yeah, I'm sure the steering is electric or some shit. But it's nice. It's, smooth, goes down the road well. But you start hitting bumps with this thing, and it rides like a dump truck. I mean, so bad. It's unbelievable. And look, I know, 25, I'm telling you, it's even taking into account expectations of what one of these should drive like. It's much worse. So we'll see how the shocks help with that. It's got the Z71 suspension with some really dumb looking ranchos on it. The Bilsteins hopefully might smooth it out a little bit. We'll see. But anyway, look, it's fine. And oh, here's my dead Banks gauge and the dead pedal commander gauge. Again, removed. Gonna remove the whole friggin' thing and get the factory A-pillar cover back in there as I slowly return this truck to its stock position. Anyway, look, so here it is. I won't bore you with this. I'm gonna go for a drive. There's nothing exciting about that. I'm not quite back. I've got a Keys trip again leaving a week from this Saturday with Sean, the Nazi fisherman. It's gonna be rough. He's gonna make a lot of barking commands at me. I already know it. This is wonderful, by the way. I feel we're gonna be stuck here for a while, so I'll probably just finish the video here. I could do a big dramatic drive around in 4 high, but I think I'll save that for about 7 minutes from now. So I'm going back to the Keys. I know I'm not going to get motivated before that. I can already feel it. There's a chance I'll get a video out next week, but I'm going to be honest, it's unlikely. When I'm back from that trip, man, I got 12 cars to get ready for auctions. I've got that Tornado. I've got a Fifth Avenue, not the one I already did, a later model. Some other stuff, Firebird, the Camaro project, bunch of stuff we're going to do videos on. Got that 300 TD Mercedes back, and I promise you many videos will be forthcoming as we get into season here in Naples, as the weather improves. While it's like this, I have no motivation. I can't do shit. It's awful. It's just awful. I walk out at noon with the full intent of doing something, start dripping, and walk back the hell inside and do nothing. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be another couple weeks before we really get going. So thank you for having a look. Appreciate it. Sorry for how long-winded this was, but been gone for a while and had to do a little bit of an update. Either way, we'll get the train rolling again. I'll make some posts to Twitter if anyone's on there, and can't thank you guys enough for staying tuned even while I've abandoned everyone. But I will be back. We'll get some videos pumped out, and I really appreciate it. Take care, and we will see you soon with the next one.